My name is Margaret McDonough. I'm here today for Irish Traveller Television. On the couch I have Owen Bardoon, who is the Community Employment Supervisor for Clondalkin Traveller Training. And Owen is also a core member of LGBT PAVE. We're going to be speaking about the marriage referendum that is coming up on May 22nd. You're very welcome, Owen. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
So I suppose the first question is, why is marriage important?
I think marriage is important, especially in regards to the referendum, because equality is important. And the legal rights for people to engage in what is both a social and kind of cultural institution as well as a legal contract, it's very, very important because thankfully love matters and relationships matters and people matter. And to have a marriage that is based on a point of division rather than celebration and protection is in itself very wrong.
So Owen, why have a marriage referendum now?
I think that the time is right. The time is right. There's been a lot of, I suppose, kind of background legal workings and a lot of people actually working towards equality in an active motion rather than just by principle. And thankfully that we've been led on to the situation that we can have this, and that it's been a hard struggle to get here, especially kind of in recent times, and I suppose LGBT rights and equality rights across the world. But following on from kind of commissions and interdepartmental discussions and people really working on the grassroots levels of it all, that we pushed it into being.
And why civil marriage when there's already a civil partnership?
That's actually a question that a lot of people ask. And first of all, we need to actually look at what a civil partnership is. When you actually hold it into, I suppose, into a distinct concept, it's over 160 different exemptions and differences between civil partnership and actual marriage, and the full contract of law. And one of the most important ones is that civil partnership never at any stage mentions children. Now, a lot of people associate, especially LGBT people, as not having children, when in fact we know in reality this is not true. There are many people who might have children from kind of past relationships. There are many people in loving kind of situations that want to have children. And those inadequacies and I suppose lack of equality is causing a lot of real struggle and conflict in people's lives when it doesn't need to be there.
And when we speak about children, it's an issue that has been spoken about before, but will marriage between lesbian and gay couples affect children?
To be very honest, yes and no. The actual marriage won't affect children directly because the bill for the protecting of children and families is actually already being passed. It's waiting to be signed by the President. So we know the situation that gay people can adopt, gay people can have children, gay people can I suppose foster. We know that's not actually the issue. The issue is actually about the referendum of going, can people, regardless of their sex, actually enter into the contract of marriage in an equal standing? And how is it going to affect children in a positive way? Is that their parents, regardless of what the makeup is, we can have that legal protection and that right to identify as an actual parent of the child. And as we all know, anything that brings more stability and love and celebration is going to be a positive thing.
Will the churches be forced to marry gay and lesbian couples?
Oh no, most certainly not. I think a lot of people, especially in Irish society, really confuse kind of civil marriages with religious institutions and their celebrations. Just say, I know yourself, you're married. You actually weren't legally married until you actually signed the register. So while there is kind of the religious celebration, which is very, very respectful and very kind of within tradition, is actually separate from the legal right and contract. Because I think we have very romantic ideas about marriage, but it actually is a contract, an agreement between two people of actually their commitment and responsibilities to one another. And this kind of the referendum and kind of hopefully the positive outcome of it will have no impact on the church being forced in any way or matter to follow through weddings. Now there are other alternative options rather than just the Roman Catholic kind of styles, which a lot of people I think would be very open to and very celebratory year round. But no, it's a civil right rather than the religious kind of, I suppose, reconditioning.
So tell me, how can people support marriage equality and still be a Catholic?
I think that a lot of people just need to remind themselves that there's a difference between personal religious ideology and the understanding of basic human rights.
And also, I've heard recently that Father Iggy O'Donovan called for a yes vote in the referendum.
Oh, he did, and I think that actually it's a lot of the time it's quite in respect of the kind of a real stream within our community, and even those who were identified quite strongly as Roman Catholic, that they feel that it's something, of course, that should be included. However, also very interestingly, so the Association of Catholic Priests actually very recently come out and said that they're not going to be directing anyone towards a yes or no on the referendum, but that people should actually make a choice on it as a point of personal conscience, which I think is very important. That rather than kind of falling into, I suppose, the association of a church or being directed by other people or agencies, that you actually make that choice yourself, that you educate yourself and people around you on the reasons why the referendum is happening, what is the outcomes, and what are people trying to create, and to vote with their conscience rather than with expectations of other people's opinions.
And for people that maybe don't know anyone from the LGBT community, if they were kind of on the fence, what would you say to them?
I think one of the most important things is that everybody knows someone from the LGBT community. That they kind of, I mean, everyone has a family member, a brother, a sister, a cousin, uncle who actually identifies as LGBT. They may not do it outwardly though. And I think that one of those things they're going, do you feel that members of your family and community should have the same rights as you, regardless of their orientation, and most importantly of their gender? Do you think that actually that people should be treated differently because of their gender in our society? I think that a lot of people actually confuse the legal rights of a marriage, understanding that it is in fact just a legal contract, with the romantic notion and religious celebration of church-based weddings. And that's actually what people are actually really asking for, is that in your community and in your family and those around you, do you feel that people should have the exact same legal rights as you do? Or do you think that we should continue under our constitution to discriminate against people because of their gender? And I think that most people, if they really sit down and actually review the point, want everyone around them to be as equally as happy or as miserable as those who actually have the, I suppose, the potential and really positive opportunity to get married. And I think that's what really people are coming back to, going, it is something that directly affects you. You may not be aware of it, and you may think that this is someone else's issue or situation, but in fact it is your family and it's people that you love and care for. And if we just return to that point of being, going, shouldn't they actually have the same choices as you do, or should we continue to actually alienate them?
What will this do for the LGBT community if there is a yes vote to the referendum?
I think that not just the LGBT community, but our community at large, it's about equality. So what we're saying is that people shouldn't actually be continually stigmatised or reduced in legal standing because of their gender. And also, I think that a lot of people themselves, like I'm in a relationship for 8 years and I actually have the opportunity to get married. And that gives me the opportunity to have that point of celebration. Now, I can get civilly partnered. However, civilly partnered is not marriage. It's not the celebration of marriage, and even the romantic notion, for instance, you can't even ask someone to get married. You have to go, do you want to be civil together? You know, as if, and we've got into the pretense that is something that's appropriate and it's something that's fair, when it isn't fair because we're being discriminated because of gender. And I think this stage of our lives, and this stage of our community, this stage of our advancements and towards equality and human rights, it's simply not fair. It's simply not fair, and I think that a positive outcome will actually remind communities, directly for the LGBT community as well as the wider community, is that equality does matter and that people should not be continually discriminated because of their gender.
And if a person would like to find out how to vote and if they're registered to vote, how can they do that?
I think the first thing you need to do is actually just check the register.ie and or call into your local county civil offices to actually check that you're actually on the register, and that you are, in order to actually suppose vote in this referendum, you have to be over the age of 18 and an Irish citizen. And I think also as well that regardless of, in this referendum, regardless of the yes or no, people need to vote, or at least allow themselves to have the opportunity to vote, because that's actually what politics is about. It's not just about decisions like this, it's about having a hand in how we direct our communities, having a voice in how we actually call for change, either be progressive or repressive. It's actually about knowing that people do matter and your voice does matter. And I think that's incredibly strong, especially for the travelling community, that we actually have more power than we realise, and that we need to actually start actually using it. And there's been incredibly beautiful progressions within the community. A lot more people are standing up and being, I suppose, less wary of the institutions that have been repressive towards people, but people need to always remind themselves that this is our community and this is our society, and that we not only to a degree have the right to vote, we also have the responsibility to vote.
And if there's anybody out there who would like any more information about the marriage referendum, or anyone from the LGBT community that would like to contact yourself or anyone else, is there any contact details?
Oh, I mean, you can always contact lgbtpavi.ie, and also kind of if on the Twitter feed you go Yes Equality, but you'll also see a lot of people wearing the Yes Equality badge, and just have a conversation, have a discussion. I think a lot of people were reducing this to a kind of a distant ideal and a very complicated situation, when in fact it's just brought back to source going, can two individuals, regardless of their sex, actually enter into the contract of marriage? And I think that while we're having a wider discussion around the implications and the legal rights, in reality that's all we're asking. So can two people actually get married? And a really powerful way to actually get it across into the community is have that discussion. Have that kind of going, where do we draw the line in our equality? Do we feel that the kind of old system actually works better for us? And if it's legitimate, have that opinion and celebrate that opinion and share that opinion, but know that you're not actually just limited by it, that you can change that if you want to. And I think that one of the most important things about this referendum is that it's really asking us to really consider what we consider, I suppose reconsider what we consider equality, and where do we impose those limits. I think that most people will be fair and most people will be very progressive and open, but things will only actually happen if people actually vote. And there is very little limitations in the place for people voting, which as long as they actually get out. And another actually opportunity as well for people to do is actually to donate towards the fund towards the celebration and promotion of Yes for Equality. Because even if it's just 50 cents a euro, what it does, it gives people the understanding that now they have invested, so they're more likely to turn up. Because I know myself, I'm not sure about you, a lot of people will carry very strong opinions about stuff, but you don't actually ever see them around. You don't actually see them following through with those opinions. And when it comes to voting, and when it comes to actually enacting that legal right, it's something we need to put in motion rather than just discuss.
And if people want to donate, how would they do that?
And you can donate directly to the Yes Equality Fund. You can do it online, you can do it by text message. And actually, I'm sure at the end of this video, we'll have a list of resources. And I hope people will take a little bit of time to look through them and to remind themselves that it's not just about this referendum, it's about how we are going to treat people and how we're actually going to really carry our voices forward in the future.
Well, it'll be definitely a yes vote for me on May 22nd.
Excellent.
And it was absolutely fantastic talking to you again today.
It really was, Margaret, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that Irish Travel Television are taking a very open hand in this. And because I know that you don't seek to be a voice, you just seek to host a voice. And I think that actually is very important because it works on many, many levels towards equality. And it works on so many more powerful and empowering aspects, knowing that there are ways to let the world understand how we actually feel, rather than being told and directed of what we should be expected to feel. And
that's what we're here for. We're here for travellers to have their opinions and have their voice and to be heard.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thanks very much
for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, thank you.